We all know that look. That micro moment on camera that didn't need words. Because pain like that isn't loud, it's quiet. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And when Justin Bieber blinked, slowly, lips pressed tight while the rest of the room exploded in laughter, it was like the whole internet collectively held its breath. Some moments go viral because they're funny. Some because they're shocking. This one? It was human. Please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It is free and help us bring you enjoyable content. And of course, watch till the end. It wasn't just another award show moment. It was the kind of split second that says more than 1,000 interviews. Think about it. Have you ever tried to look unfazed while someone you once loved laughed with someone new? It hits different, especially when there's a camera trained on your face and 14 million people waiting to clip, edit, and tweet your reaction within minutes. Justin didn't storm out. He didn't cry. He just looked. And that look? It said everything. Because real heartbreak doesn't need to make a scene. It sits behind your eyes, tucked in the corners, waiting for a trigger. Sometimes it's a song, sometimes a photo, and sometimes it's a camera cutting to you at the exact wrong time. But what was going through his head in that moment? Let's unpack that. You know what makes moving on so hard? It's not the lack of closure. It's the 1,000 imaginary versions of what could have been. Every fork in the road you replay at 3 a.m. asking, what if I had just said one more thing? Or what if I'd shown up that day instead of sending a text? When Justin saw Selena that night, maybe it wasn't about jealousy or regret. Maybe it was about the invisible versions of their life that never happened. The road trips they never took. The houses they never lived in. The inside jokes that no longer make sense because they were only funny in their world. Have you ever looked at someone and seen a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore? That's the ache that doesn't come with closure, it comes with growing up. But does that mean he still loves her? We like to put people in boxes. He's over her. She moved on. They're just friends now. But love doesn't play by those rules. You can love someone and know it's over. You can be happy for their happiness and still feel the sting of absence. It's entirely possible to marry someone else and still have a ghost of another person wandering the halls of your heart. Justin married Hailey. And he's spoken about peace, growth, and healing. But healing isn't always linear. Just because a wound scabs over doesn't mean it doesn't itch when the weather changes. And maybe that's what we saw that night. Not a man stuck in the past, but someone who was reminded. Just for a moment of what it meant to be younger, messy, in love, and not quite ready to let go. So, do we ever really move on? Let's get real. We've all done it. Scrolling late at night, stumbling across a picture that knocks the wind out of you. A smile that used to be yours. A handhold that feels like betrayal even though it isn't. You pause. Zoom in. Zoom out. Check the date. Try to decode the caption. You tell yourself you're happy for them. You tell yourself you're fine. But inside, your brain is a mess of nostalgia, comparison, and self-doubt. That's not just heartbreak. That's the grief of watching someone you once imagined forever with build a new forever without you. Maybe Justin's version of this wasn't scrolling through Instagram at 2 a.m., but millions of people watching his reaction in real time. Multiply that feeling by every camera flash and tweet. That's a lot of pressure for someone still figuring things out. And maybe that's why it hit so hard. Have you ever smiled in a room full of people while dying a little inside? Being in love is hard enough. Imagine having to do it with tabloids tracking your every move. From the very start, Justin and Selena's relationship was picked apart, romanticized, judged, and dissected. They were Yelena before ship names were even a thing. But what happens when your love story becomes a hashtag? You lose ownership of it. Suddenly, it's not just your memories. It's the world's content. That split second on camera didn't just represent heartbreak. It represented the toll of being in love under a microscope. Every look, every smile, every breakup lyric becomes part of a narrative you don't control. And that messes with your head. Because when does something stop being yours and start belonging to the internet? Can we ever reclaim the parts of us we gave away to the public? Some loves don't fade. They settle. They evolve. They change form. They become quieter but heavier. We like to think love either burns bright or burns out. But sometimes, It just simmers under the surface for years. Not enough to interfere, but just enough to remind you it was real. And maybe that's the hardest kind of love to carry, the one you don't talk about, but never really forget. Think about the people you've let go of. Not because you stopped loving them, but because life demanded it. Maybe they were right person, wrong time. Or maybe they weren't right at all, but they still left a mark you can't explain. That's the kind of love that showed in Justin's eyes that night. Not a love that wants to return, but a love that refuses to disappear. So, what do we do with love that lingers? From the outside, Justin moved on. He got married. He's in therapy. He talks about God and peace and grounding. And truly, he seems happy in many ways. But here's the thing. Just because someone looks okay doesn't mean they aren't carrying something heavy. We've all done it. Posted happy pictures while grieving inside. Smiled at parties while our heart was breaking. Told people I'm fine because explaining would take too long and hurt too much. And maybe Justin's smile isn't fake, it's just complicated. Because real healing doesn't erase the past. It integrates it. And sometimes being moved on just means you've made peace with the ache, not that it's gone. So is peace enough when love still echoes? Why did this moment resonate with millions of people? Because we've all been Justin at some point. Watching someone move on. Hearing their laugh from across the room and pretending it doesn't gut you. Smiling through it because you're supposed to be strong. It reminded us of our humanity. Of how love, no matter how grand or messy, is deeply personal. And heartbreak, when witnessed in someone else, can unearth our own. That's the power of a single look on live television. It becomes a mirror. And suddenly, you're not watching a celebrity, you're watching a version of yourself. And you start to wonder, did I ever fully heal? Closure is overrated. We crave it like it's some magical finish line. But sometimes, closure doesn't come from a final conversation. Sometimes it comes from acceptance. From realizing some questions will never be answered and some chapters never get neatly wrapped up. Maybe Justin never got closure. Maybe Selena didn't either. Maybe that's why their story still lingers. Because the hardest stories to move on from are the ones that feel unfinished. And what do we do with unfinished love? We live with it. Quietly. Like a song you used to love that now makes you tear up for no reason. But what if that ache has something to teach us? Here's the secret no one tells you. You can love someone deeply and still be okay without them. Love doesn't have to lead to a fairy tale ending to be real. And heartbreak doesn't mean you failed. It means you felt something powerful. Maybe that's the lesson Justin is learning. Maybe it's the one we all need to learn. To carry love without needing to hold on. To cherish memories without chasing them. To wish someone well, even when your heart still hurts. And maybe, just maybe, the real strength isn't in moving on, it's in loving without needing it to end a certain way. So where does that leave us? That single look, eyes heavy, lips tight, heart full, was more than just a reaction. It was a universal human moment. It reminded us that we're all a little broken. That behind the fame, the followers, the perfectly curated lives, are people carrying memories they can't quite let go of. It showed us that love, even when it ends, never really leaves. So the next time you feel that ache, that pull toward a past love, a what if, a ghost of someone you once held close. Remember this, you're not alone. We've all been there. And just like Justin, maybe you're not stuck. Maybe you're just remembering something that once mattered. And that's okay, because real love leaves echoes. And sometimes, those echoes are the most human parts of us. Have you ever seen someone move on while you were still healing? Have you ever smiled through the pain like Justin did that night? Share your story below, drop a broken heart if this hit close to home, and tag someone who needs to read this. Because healing doesn't happen alone, and some loves, even the quiet ones, deserve to be heard.